Welcome to the Revolutionary CEO podcast, where adaptable marketing meets real-life business strategies. I'm your host, Letitia Lynch, adaptable marketing strategist, boy mom, and CEO who believes in making marketing work for you. In this podcast, we're unlocking the gate-kept marketing strategies and advice that's usually hidden behind paywalls that solo service providers, coaches, and boutique firm owners need to market, launch, and sell their services their way. Join me every Wednesday as we explore strategies tailored to your capacity, personality, and business season. I'll also share my business shifts and bonus episodes with real questions and custom strategies from Revolutionary Society. Let's get into it. Welcome back to part 3 of the 5-part podcast series called The Capacity Commitment Shift, Sustainable Marketing on Your Terms. This podcast series is designed to help you to realign your marketing approach with your current business and lifestyle needs, turning your commitment into consistent profit without burnout. So first of all, part 1, if you missed it, was focused on why you feel stuck when it comes to marketing and the importance of better execution. In part 2 is where we explored the impact of inconsistent execution and how capacity plays a role and why you're probably having trouble with consistency. Both episodes are definitely linked in the show notes if you haven't heard them yet. But today's focus is going to be on your commitment to the marketing. Now, while execution and getting the marketing done are clearly essential, consistent commitment is what actually drives the results that you're looking for, the sales, the booked out programs, the VIP days booked 6 months in advance. So today's episode will dive into why maintaining your commitment to marketing is challenging and how to overcome those struggles. Now, have you ever been so ready to follow a marketing strategy because you are super inspired and hyped by the marketing that they did around it, like all the social proof and the screenshots of wins and the claims of how fast it happened and how it could happen for you too, but then you try to do it and the shit doesn't work for you, at least not the pace that you thought it would. And it definitely is never as simple as they made it seem, while of course they may have had like a VA and a graphic designer and a social media manager taking care of all of the back end work and creativity. You do not. So what causes your struggle with being committed to doing the work of the marketing strategies anyway? Let's talk about it. So when it comes to your struggle with commitment, I want to talk about 3 things. First is delayed gratification. If you find yourself putting in big effort, I'm talking writing 100 emails, spending hours every day on content, making graphics, updating your website, setting up Dubsado workflows. Even if you only followed that strategy for 3 days, if nobody so much as fills out your application, it will feel like a waste of time, right? It's kind of like dieting or going to the gym. We know we should not expect a 6-pack after doing sit-ups for like 2 days, or we shouldn't expect to lose 10 pounds just because we laid off cookies for 3 days, but we still feel less motivated to keep going if the reward doesn't match the effort, right? So the second thing that I've noticed that typically comes up that really impacts commitment is like shiny object syndrome, because there's that growing temptation to jump to every new app, buy every new template, or try every new process that someone hyped up because they promised it was different and fun and so easy. But every time you try something new, the initial learning curve is always going to be there, and you're not sticking with any one thing long enough to see it work out. And the third thing that I know for sure is why a lot of people struggle with commitment. By the way, I struggle with a lot of this stuff. It's so funny even talking about it. It's just emotional and mental fatigue. And don't even get me started on the fact that groceries are like $800 every time you so much as step foot into a grocery store. The fact that you need to make more to afford your lifestyle or help support or even slowly support your family. You've been putting pressure on yourself to just keep the pace of the continued year-over-year growth that you've had ever since you started your business for the past few years, that you are simply just running out of mental gas. Then there are all the psychological reasons. Let's talk about those, because I think these come up the most for a lot of the people that I work with, because first of all, the fear of failure. If you've been succeeding for years, never had to even really market because you were getting enough referrals up until now to thrive, or getting by just fine no matter what the hell marketing strategy you pulled out of your ass over the past few years, then the fear of failure is actually going to be a really big one for you. Now that you feel yourself really trying and not succeeding as quickly as you assumed you would, you are less likely to commit. And if you don't fully commit, you can tell yourself, well, it didn't really work out because I didn't really try anyway, which can be a psychological like safety net. I've been kind of doing this with Revolutionary Society, actually. It's funny that I'm launching it right now. But, Revolutionary Society, I really haven't even truly launched it since its start in October 2022, because I didn't really want to admit that it just felt weird for me to have something new to market that didn't feel like a successful launch if I didn't get at least 20 new members every time, because it's not the same investment as my formerly very successful group program, Revolutionary Brand. With Revolutionary Brand, I would have a multi-5-figure launch by getting 6 people in the program. And also, I didn't need to desperately have a bunch of people. First of all, I didn't want more than 6 to 8 people, but also I didn't need it because I made enough revenue to sustain myself and to support the level of people that I had in there. But in a membership like Revolutionary Society, I need at least 20 people every single launch for me to be able to add things or get support or get help, because the investment would be too high versus how much people are actually paying me to do so, right? So I would kind of talk about Revolutionary Society for maybe a week or so, showing some behind the scenes and mentioning what's coming up for the next quarter. And I would kind of just wait for people to join. And when enough didn't join, I kind of chalked it up to the fact that I didn't really actually launch it anyway. So it wasn't really technically a failure because I wasn't even really doing anything. In fact, it was kind of a mental win for me, for my ego, because at least I got a couple of people in and I wasn't even trying. Like, I feel like we do that a lot. And the second thing is perfectionism. I think just for some people, the shift and change in their business and their offers have led to a major increase in their perfectionism tendencies. I see this happen the most with previously successful entrepreneurs who were known for one big thing that was extremely successful, and then they changed what they do now, and now they're not getting the same big wins or launches or reception to their new ideas or new direction. So before they so much as open their mouths or pick up their phone for content, they kind of micromanage and dissect every single decision and action that they need to take, but never actually put the thing out there. It just keeps getting delayed for yet another piece to get done, like a rebrand, a photo shoot, messaging, graphics, website copy, a certain follower or subscriber count, the perfect hook, the perfect subject line. Ultimately, this just kind of leads to a lack of commitment to the strategy. And then there are, of course, like the more practical reasons. So there's when you have a lack of clear goals. Without having like very clear, actionable goals, it's actually very easy to lose sight of what you're working toward, making it hard to stay committed. And I know for a fact that you've probably changed your goals so much in the past year or so that now you've probably lost sight of what you're doing all of this for. And what you're doing all of this for is probably different than what you started out, what motivated you at the start. And then there are, of course, things like inadequate resources, because in most cases, maybe even for the first time since you last had a real coach or a program you were in, you realize you don't have the right tools, support, or systems in place, which is making it difficult to commit to a strategy long term. And what you don't understand is that at this stage of business where your commitment now literally directly impacts your currency, either in a good way or a bad way, both in terms of revenue and brand equity, I really want to break down the concept of your commitment really being your currency for your business. So when it comes to revenue at this stage of business, you're kind of seeing that your commitment directly influences the revenue. The less committed you are to what you're doing and how you show up, the less you do it. The more you ghost your accounts, let those email lists go cold and stop showing up, the less money you've been making. The more consistently you commit to the marketing strategy, the more predictable and sustainable your income becomes. But that also means you have to commit to finding the right recipe for a marketing strategy that makes sense for you and who you are now. This is not the time of the one size fits all, copy the exact out of the box strategy that some marketing expert gave you and that your friend who has no damn kids, no neurodiversity, no responsibility to anyone but themselves is following. It just isn't going to work like that anymore. And then there's brand equity. So at the same time that commitment to consistent strategy, no matter what the strategy you end up following long term, whatever that is, it does help you build brand equity over time. You can't just pop up anymore and go hard for a launch or only send emails just to make a sale, because it's not just about the immediate returns anymore, but also that about the long-term value and trust that you're building with your audience, because now you understand the value of retaining customers with building a real community. And if you've even been on Threads lately and witnessed the power that building a brand where you're known for something can be, when you see your name being tagged for speaking opportunities or people looking for coaches and service providers and people literally selling your stuff for you on Threads, when you see that happening, then you really will understand and know that brand equity is very valuable today. So I want to give you a real scenario of this kind of playing out, because I actually really recently had a client who had never made it through a launch before. She's been telling me about this, and she says she honestly just never really had a process for it. However, she was sticking with marketing content, but she was kind of showing up without committing to following a strategy, and it didn't help her sell her coaching services. Recently, though, she and I, of course, talked through a simple marketing strategy to kind of ease her into launching. I think a lot of times we jump into these really complex strategies that just, if you've never done something before, it's more stressful to get the absolute most you can do, because it gives you more opportunities to feel like you might possibly fail. So I felt that starting her off with something just really simple would help her to get used to the concept of launching and seeing it through. And so what I gave her was, she just kind of had like a short email sequence to send to her email list, again, which was also something she was never consistent at doing. She wasn't consistently sending emails before. And would you know that her first launch for a brand new offer booked her 11 clients in a group coaching program. This not only gave her the confidence that following a process works, it helped the people actually see her brand and her offers brand as something that they should value and experience for themselves. So 7 weeks later, she ended up launching again following the same process. And that time she booked 32 people into her program. 32 people. You don't realize this, but you know what it looks like to actually follow a process and see it through. Like, you've seen results before and you know it's possible. You just need a process now that's worth following at this stage. You need a process you know you can realistically follow to give yourself a real chance of actually seeing it through. So what I do in Revolutionary Society, and why I want you to join, is because Revolutionary Society was kind of built around the fact that I know that people need structured environments and accountability kind of built into one, because I don't think that we are at a stage where we can kind of just be left to our own devices. Because again, as I said earlier in this episode, we were kind of just doing almost whatever we wanted from 2020 to 2021 and even early 2022, and people were still buying. So we didn't need to go beyond our referral network. We didn't really need to be so strict with our launches. We could say just about anything in our content, and it kind of just worked out. And because we didn't really have a lot to do, we had all the time in the world to just show up and talk all damn day and be on these apps and spend all this time doing all this stuff. And we just don't have it like that anymore. And so I know that having regular check-ins and peer support and guidance as you're getting things done is going to be the thing that works for you now. I like when members come to the calls and say, hey, I thought I was going to be launching my offer by now, but I'm still trying to figure out what to put on my sales page. Do I even need a sales page? And I can say, no, why don't we make a Google Doc? I've done this several times. Here are 2 examples of Google Docs that I just did. And I sent it to my previous clients that I worked with in the past, because I knew that they would be likely to say yes without a sales page. I got my first few clients. Then I got some early results that gave me more confidence in the offer and better words to say when marketing the offer. I was able to then show up and then launch, and felt confident doing so. And saying that live in a call that took me less than a minute to say to you, they're able to then move forward. And now they're not spending days, weeks making a sales page, hiring a copywriter. All they did was make a quick little Google Doc, sent it to some previous clients, and booked their first few. This happens all the time for my clients. In the membership, I actually had someone, she had just got done doing a training program. And because she had spent all this time and money on this training program, she wanted to do a pop-up offer where she was going to walk people through this resource that she was supposed to be able to repurpose and sell them into getting support from her for a few weeks. And she was like, do I need to follow like the normal month-long launch process? I really don't have a lot of time. She had a lot of summer travel coming up. And I said, no, you have this offer already done. You just went through the program. Talk about your experience going through it, how you're going to help people sell this to your existing coaching clients that you have, and then market just that thing. Just do that for like a week and see what happens. When I tell you, she said that she ended up booking 8 couples, I think. She does couples coaching. She booked 8 couples, 8 people total. I think 2 were like pairs and 4 people were like individuals into this brand new thing. And she said some of them were people I was already working with and some are brand new people. It worked out because she had support to tell her on the spot, here's a really cool strategy. Let's try this. You don't need to spend a lot of time. It'll be simple. You already have all the information you need. Just talk about it and see what happens. And she did, and it worked out. Also, just being in a community where you see other people actually doing the work alongside you. I think how Revolutionary Society used to be set up was that every month we would have like one masterclass where we all learned a new concept. And then the next week we would have a workshop where I gave them new resources and we all did some new thing. And then the next week we would have a Q&A, and that happened every single month. But then I was like, they have learned everything. They're not doing any of it. So now we actually show up to our weekly sessions and it's focused on, it's copywriting day. We're working on social media content. We're pitching to, the media or the collaborative partners that we want to work with. We're doing email marketing today. We're working on our SEO, copywriting, blogging, all that stuff. We do different things and we focus on getting it done. It's, launch planning day. It's, all of these different things that helps everyone to be on the same accord, to all talk through out loud. They get to walk through different strategies with me, and everyone gets the stuff done. And then having the tools and resources to make the execution easier. It's one thing for me to say, all you got to do is show up and post this content. It's another thing for me to say, and here is a list of the content that I've done doing the same process a couple of years ago that still works to this day. It's all the prompts. It shows you my emails that I sent. It shows you my social media posts. It gives you examples. And if you have any questions or need any more ideas, why don't you pop up in the content clinic and I'll give you some new ideas and some sounds to use for your reels or whatever. It's nice to have those things and have access to this. So what I want you to do is to reflect right now on your current level of commitment. Are you fully committed to your marketing strategy right now, or have you found yourself struggling to keep up with it? Truth be told, in Revolutionary Society, a lot of the members just said, I just don't see myself doing my marketing strategies how I used to, which is why I'm hosting the Marketing Mastery Accelerator, which is something I did back in December, January of this coming into this year. And then again in May, helping groups of them to go through and create a new marketing strategy that aligns with who they are right now today. And I'm hosting that again, starting live at the second week of September, but you have to get in Revolutionary Society to be a part of that. I want you to think about, is it time for you to be doing that? Should you be going back to remastering and reconfiguring how you're doing your marketing? If you know that you need that and you want the level of support that the people inside of Revolutionary Society has, then go to revolutionarysociety.com and make sure you join in time. Join us by September the 3rd to make sure you're in there for all of the support that they're getting next month, from their sales challenge to revisiting their marketing strategy and creating a new one for the next year. And then in the next episode, we'll be talking about the relationship between your capacity and your commitment and how aligning the two will actually make it so much easier for you to see success with the marketing efforts that you're spending your time doing. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the Revolutionary CEO podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform and leave a review to let me know the moments you enjoyed most. Spotify users and YouTubers, leave me a comment with your biggest takeaway or questions from the episode. And be sure to connect with me on Instagram, YouTube, or Threads. I'm always at Her Marketing Coach. Talk to you next week.